Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial on everything all things AI and behavior trees in Kingdom Hearts 3. This tutorial will be split into two parts, and I hope to aim to teach everyone, whether you're a complete beginner with behavior trees in UE4 or are pretty familiar. Part 1 is an overview, it includes a step-by-step guide for creating a simple replacement BT, and Part 2 will be an in-depth look and explanation for how many nodes work, and also examples for what I've used and how I've used them. Let's begin with part 1, and we'll dive right in. We have a couple prerequisites that you need to know. Basically, you just need to know your way around UE4, at least at basic level, know how to create folders, access settings, that sort of thing. Know a bit about blueprints. They're pretty similar in visual design, so that will help you when creating behavior trees. You're going to need a stated KH3 asset editor, and of course you're going to need the custom UE for the Trace Game project. So, for a brief overview, AI in Unreal Engine 4 are made up of many different parts. Of course, you know about behavior trees, and that's probably what you've heard about. And here's what they look like. They look like a giant tree. The behavior tree executes from left to right and up to down, and the behavior tree is just a bunch of nodes telling the AI what to do and when to do it. So yeah, it's behavior trees. The other component that you need to know about is blackboards. Blackboard is a file that just holds a bunch of what they call keys, or just a bunch of variables, and you name the variables in blackboard keys to whatever you want, and then you can also set the type. And I'm going to go over all this in very in-depth detail. I'm just giving you a simple overview so that you can understand all of the terminology when I'm going through the rest of it. Yeah, blackboards just hold a bunch of keys, and those keys get called in the behavior tree and can be filled with things and manipulated as you go around. Another part of the UE4 AI system are environmental query systems, which are EQS. These purple things with question marks are the EQS, and that's just what people call EQS for short. They're a system invented by the UE4 devs to test various test points and other actors on a map, and through nav meshes and stuff. And what they do is they run those tests, and then those tests return into a blackboard key the best possible option. They're used to find things such as destination or targets, and yeah, they're pretty powerful. Another part that there are a couple other parts for AI systems that we won't really be needing to manipulate at all for the most part in our Kingdom Hearts 3 modding. We have nav meshes. I don't have an example up on screen, but nav meshes are just a layer that are actually built on the world that allows the AI to perceive and move around with it. Square Enix used a custom nav mesh called Mersuna, and obviously that makes a bunch of conflicts, but for the most part we won't need to worry about that. Another part, and pretty much the last part of the AI system in Kingdom Hearts 3 is an AI controller. The AI controllers are part of the AI system that executes the commands to the pawn based on the behavior tree executions. Right now, there's no way that I know of, at least, to manipulate the AI controller or the type AI controller that the pawn possesses. You can find that in the pawn files for all the character pawns. But for the most part, the ones that the NPCs and enemies already have works for most of our needs, so you won't need to manipulate it. And an important part to mention is that if if you've done AI stuff in other games before, the AI controller is not a separate file. It's actually just a component that they put into all the pawn files. So you don't need to worry about creating an AI controller or anything like that. And that is the brief overview. Alright, now that you have the brief overview of all the AI system components, we're going to start with making our own behavior tree and all the parts that we need to make our own behavior tree for an enemy, and you're going to be able to cook it and put in your game, and you're going to be like, wow, I did that. So we got to start with the first step. The first step is creating our blackboard. Behavior trees are assigned a blackboard from the very start as its root. As I said before, blackboards are basically just a container for variables. You can technically make a behavior tree without a blackboard, but that would be a very simplistic behavior tree and would not work at all for battle AI. In Kingdom Hearts, you're definitely going to need blackboard keys. Luckily for our person modding, the dev team already has many blackboards with defined variables, so we don't need to cook one, we just need to make some references. As far as how they've structured the system for blackboards, a lot of complex enemies and NPCs have unique blackboards, but simpler enemies like a basic shadow don't even have a unique blackboard. They share blackboard with other types of enemies. But regardless, for our custom behavior tree, we're going to make our dummy blackboard. So here's what we need to do. We're going to, I don't know what you have set up for your folders, but we're going to need to make a folder for blueprints, and then enemy, and then common, and then blackboards, and then here in the blackboards folder, we're gonna right click and we're gonna go to artificial intelligence and press on blackboard. We're gonna name this blackboard plan base. I go ahead and go into that, and we're going to need to add some keys / variables because they're gonna need that. So go up here on the top left, we're gonna see new key, and we're going to need to add some keys. And the first one, we're gonna hit object, and we're going to type in self actor. And underneath here, you're gonna need this. Underneath here, key type. Whenever you have an object key, almost always, you're gonna have to press this little drop down and go to base class and put it in as actor. That'll come up important later. I don't know why it has to be like that, but I mean, I do know why. I just don't know why they made a decision, but I'll explain all that later. We're also gonna need to add target actor, and again, actor. We're gonna add an action EQS query. Did I add it? Oh. You can just use name for this. Action EQS query. Active action. And active locomotion. And you hit save, and that's all we need to do with the blackboard. Don't really need to do anything else. This is pretty much the easiest part. So now we got to make our behavior tree. So go back to our root folder, and we're going to go to blueprints and go to enemy, and we're going to create a new folder for EX009, that is soldier, and go on there. Then you're going to create a folder for BT, and then we're going to have, you're going to have nothing in here, but we're going to right click and go to artificial intelligence again. This time we're going to go to behavior tree and type in EX009 BT. I would like to quickly mention, you're probably wondering, do we need to set the behavior tree somehow? In Kingdom Hearts 3, they already set it in the pawn files, at least the root behavior tree, so this is their root behavior tree and their root behavior tree naming system. So we are all good. We don't have to do anything. Here at the root, this is the root of our behavior tree. It's pretty empty, nothing in there, right? I'm gonna click on it, and we're gonna pull up on the right here. We're gonna pull up Blackboard asset, and you're probably only gonna have one Blackboard asset if this is your first time doing anything. But we're gonna type in Blackboard play and base. I'm gonna click it, and right here, this should show up as Blackboard play and base, and that is how we set which Blackboard we're using. So right now our behavior tree is a little bit empty, and we need it to do things. So we're gonna pull this down, and we're gonna see that we have some options here for nodes. And you can see that the type of nodes that we have are called composites. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna select a selector. And I'm gonna go through all these different types of composites and all the different types of node, especially in part 2. But right now in part 1, just know you need to click selector. Now you might be wondering, what is a composite node? A composite node tells the behavior tree at that point how to orderly execute the various tasks left to right. And it's designed, the behavior tree, so you can easily set it up visually. Just for a brief description of how a selector node works, it will find the first task it is successfully execute among its children and execute that task, and then it will go back and it'll try executing that task again. But yeah, don't worry, I will again explain the different types of composites later. But next, we need a task, right? This doesn't really do anything for our soldier, so we need to drag underneath it, and it's going to ask to place a new toad, and we're going to see that a new option pops up, tasks. So you can search, or you can just click on action and bring up action. This is not a UE based action, this is something created by Kingdom Hearts 3, and is very important. Especially for all these task nodes, you're going to pretty much want to stick with only using the Kingdom Hearts 3 nodes. You're not going to ever want to use the UE nodes. That will pretty much break stuff. But yeah, so we pull these up. As you can see, they have this nice little color coding going on in here. Purple nodes are for all of the task nodes. Task nodes are basically what the AI executes. And the gray ones are all the composite nodes. Yeah, so let's go to our task action node. So we need to assign this soldier a task, right? Probably want to attack the player. So we got our task action, but obviously we aren't telling it what action to take. So when you click on it, see how I click on it and there's pretty much nothing on the right, but you click on this and this whole thing pops up, and you're gonna go over here and you're gonna see a bunch of different variables. I'm gonna walk you through a lot of different variables in part 2, but for now I'm just gonna more like tell you what you need. This is target, and I think that's pretty self-explanatory what that is. For the target, we're gonna put target actor. For the Blackboard definition, we're going to put active action. Here we have active or action definition, and that is where we are going to put what actual move that they are going to execute. And by move, I mean like attack. Right now, you can click the drop-down menu. You have pretty much everything available to you, but you probably don't have a move set up. So we're going to minimize this, and we are going to create a dummy reference. I've already created it, but so you can see here, I got this here. You can use whatever you want. I'll just use actor, and we are going to call it EEX009 underscore attack 3 underscore whirlwind kick T. I'm sure you can mess with this in the project settings, but it doesn't actually show the full name. Anyways, yeah, make sure you name it exactly like this. It's got to be underscore whirlwind kick T or underscore T. We will go back into our behavior tree and make sure you click on the purple action node, and on the right you will click on the action definition. You're going to want to search whirlwind, and you should see your dummy as to pull up, and then you can just click on it and there. Alright, so you may be wondering here, how does all this work? You know, you got this dummy reference. What is this? How did you know to put this here? Can I just put it anywhere? Can I name it whatever I want? The answer to all that is pretty much no. I mean, I'm sure you knew that already, but these are what I call like attack files, basically. All the action files that they make in behavior trees, they hard coded as what I call attack or action files. And if you go into your trace game extract, you will see everything. And I don't really have. Oh, here we go. So, using SOD2, you can go and, you know, of course, see your extract. I mean, you can just do that file browser too, but you go to Content Blueprints, Enemy, EX009, BT, and you're gonna see this is what their BT folder looks like for them. So everything, they had a nice naming convention going on here actually, and it makes it really easy to figure out. But everything that was an actual behavior tree, as in it was one of these behavior trees in UE4, they named underscore BT, or they have BT at the beginning, but somewhere in the file name they have BT. And then for all the actions and attacks, they generally have like action 1, attack 2, attack 3, attack 4. And so in the behavior trees, they all reference all these attacks and actions and movement actions. But that's how I figured out where to put it and what the attacks are. I mean, for the attacks and actions, they're pretty self-explanatory, you know, what they do and how they work. You know, this is whirlwind kick, this is kick peppered, which is this little thing where I think he pulls back and kicks at you. I'm not actually 100% sure about that, but yeah, so but these are the attack files and you reference them within your behavior tree. But enough on that. So going back in your behavior tree, we got this action node set up. Nice little thing that we can do is if we click on it again, we can go to description over here on the right, node name, and you can name it wherever you want. We'll just name whirlwind. Now you can see it says whirlwind. So when you zoom out or you're trying to quickly find something in your big ass behavior tree, you can see what it is. As you can see, and as you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, it's great that we got, you know, our target actor, but how did we actually set who the target actor is? Because maybe you rushed and just cooked this and put this in your game. And right now, if you just cook this and put this in your game, nothing's going to happen. He's just going to stand there. And that's because he didn't fill that target actor with anything. And we are going to do that now. So we're going to click on the selector and right click it. We're going to add a service. And we are going to go to Run EQS. Do not press on Run EQS Query, press Run EQS. Run EQS Query is for special trace things, but for the most part, you're not going to need that. You're going to want to use this base Unreal 4 version of Run EQS. As I was saying, this is where EQS comes into play. And we are going to use one here to fill the target actor and update it accordingly. Now, you might be wondering, okay, what is all this? You just kind of went through this quickly. You're probably wondering, what is this thing? Why did we put on composite node? How does all this work? And those are good questions. So this green thing that we pulled up, this service, is, well, simply called that. It's called a service node. And the service nodes are highlighted in green, or filled with green. And you can actually put them on any node. We can move it around to our action node, or we can put it on a composite node. But the service is something that is updated in the behavior tree on a regular basis every tick, and you can specify how long you want, or how often you want it to update. We can put 0.2, we can put 20 seconds. But That's how often it'll update. And every time it updates, it will fill our Blackboard key. Services are important in that they update as long as it's above your action node or above wherever you are in the behavior tree. They'll keep running and updating. So it makes it different in a task node in that it's not dependent, on where you are or where you end up in the tree. It's just keeps running. Especially the higher up you have it in the tree, it's going to be running, depending on whether you're within that branch. It's not dependent on, what action you're taking or anything else like that. It just runs. Alright, we're going to pull up this detail pane on the right by clicking on it. It's going to have this reddish orange glow. If you click on this whole node, it's going to be yellow, and you don't want to do that. You're not going to pull up the right thing. Make sure you actually clicked on the surface itself. It'll have all this EQS stuff pulled up, right? So here in the Blackboard, this is the Blackboard key that we're going to fill and that the service is going to continually update and fill. And we're going to want to drop down and click Target Actor. If you don't have any keys here listed, that means you fucked up earlier and you didn't put the object key instead as an actor. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, you can only put object actors in these Blackboard keys or destinations. Anything else you put in there, it doesn't accept. It won't work. So you got to make sure that you label it as an object actor in your Blackboard, which also a neat little trick that I just showed you there. The behavior tree, they have this little Blackboard link right here. So if you click on it, it'll automatically bring you to whichever Blackboard is linked in the behavior tree. And since we have our Blackboard plan base here, it'll just immediately pop us over there. So then you can, add keys, whatever you need, change them to whatever you need. Anyways, back to our EQS. So we got that, that's updating. And our EQS query Blackboard key, we're gonna go and click that. And you're gonna click that. This one is supposed to have nothing in the dropdown. I don't know why this is. I think it's just a UE 4.17.2 bug, and they probably fixed it by now. But I've never been able to have anything automatically show up. So just click on the little arrow, click on a different node, come back to this, and then it will show up with all of your Blackboard keys. For this, we're going to put action EQS query. Then we're going to want to click on this again on the query template. Now the query template, you're going to click this drop down, and most likely you're not going to have anything. And this is where we're going to need to create the EQS dummy. So let's minimize this. Alright, we're going to go back to our content folder, and we're going to go to blueprints, enemy, common. We're going to create a new folder for EQS. And go into that, we're creating a new folder for target selection. And then we're going to right click and press artificial intelligence and go down to environmental query. Now you may be freaking out right now and being like, I don't have environmental query, what the fuck? Well, that is a pretty simple fix. For whatever reason, you can't make them unless you actually get to your settings and tell the game or tell UE4 that you want to make it, or you want to use environmental queries. So you'll go to the editor preferences, experimental, and here it is, AI, environmental query system. You want to check that, and then close out of that, and you'll be good. So then, when you right click, you should go to artificial intelligence. You should see environmental query pop up. Then you click that, and this purple question mark thing, we're going to call it EQ enemy target default. And even though this is a dummy reference, we aren't going to package this into our mod that we're going to be making. We actually still need to make a dummy reference within the dummy reference, which sucks. Yeah, so double click on that, and you're going to pull up root, and you're going to want to put in, you can choose any of these really, but you can just click composite, and press add. You right click this and press add test, and we're gonna put distance. Now, I'm gonna explain why you need this once we get back to our behavior tree, but just do all this. You don't need to know anything else about EQS. You don't, but at least for now in this simple tutorial. We're gonna click on our distance node again, make sure that's the node and not the composite node that's highlighted. And you want to go over here under filter type and go to data binding. You're gonna put query params, and in this param name we're going to type in range and press enter. And that is all you need to do that. Make sure you hit save and exit out, and we're going to go back to our behavior tree for our soldier. So back in here, I'm going to click this up, and we're going to highlight our run EQS on a regular basis. And under the query template, you're going to want to search for enemy target. Default for you guys is probably going to be the only one. And under here, it's going to auto-populate our query config, and we're going to see param name range and all this stuff. This is really important, and the reason that we need to make a dummy reference in the EQS is that the param name you cannot edit. Even if you add a second name, you can't edit it, which is super dumb, but that's how they did it. So you need that. I mean, another option is if you for whatever reason you don't want to make a dummy reference, is you can just add a query config and it'll say param name none. You can go SOD2 and change it, but personally I prefer to do it this way. And the value, we're gonna put 50,000. So what this is telling, I'm gonna go over this. What this is telling is to run this service, which is its EQS to find a target. He's gonna run it every 0.2 seconds. You should probably put it at 0.2 just to be safe. But every 0.2 seconds, he's gonna search in a range of 50,000 Kingdom Hearts 3 units, however big that is in real life. I don't know, but 50,000 Kingdom Hearts units, and he's going to try to find something to target. And unfortunately for us, the game already has it all set up for that EQS to do all that, so we don't need to worry about that. And it's going to do so using its action EQS query, and then in the Blackboard key, it's going to fill it every 0.2 seconds, update it, update its target actor key. And because we have that target actor key filled, then we can execute our whirlwind kick, and it's going to attempt to target our target actor. A couple things that I want to quickly explain. The interval for 0.2, I just put that because that's what they often set it to, if they set it to anything. And if you're looking through SOD2 and you see it's blank, that means they just left it at the default of 0.5, so you can set that to either way, half a second or 0.2 of a second, you're going to be pretty much set. The value, again, that's just what they always use, was 50,000 units. I'm sure something like smaller, like 20 or even 10,000 will always find it a target, so you don't have to put 50,000, but I would just set it there just because that's what they use. While we're here in services, we might as well finish up the other service that we need. And we are going to right click again on our selector node, go to service, add service, and we're going to search for gameplay focus. And you should see this pop up. The only thing you need to do is put target actor. I'm going to be 100% honest and tell you I don't actually know what this service does. And for the few tests I've done where I've either forgotten to put it in a behavior tree or not use it, the whole behavior tree and everything works fine. But for some reason, every single behavior tree, I do mean every single behavior tree, or at least every single, base of a behavior tree has it in there in Kingdom Hearts 3. So it's probably updating something important that they will use at some point. So if I were you, I would just put it in. It's pretty easy to put in. Doesn't really, these services don't really affect like CPU usage all that much or anything like that. So you just put it in there and set it to target actor because that is what we want to be focusing on, and you're good to go. So now you're thinking, well, we can just cook this in, drop this in our game, and we're good to go, right? And unfortunately, you would be wrong. See, the problem we have is in this whirlwind attack file. Remember how we have this whirlwind attack file? It actually has a separate check outside of behavior trees of how close this soldier is. He won't just execute it and fling himself into there at nothing or as close as possible. The attack file, which again you can check with SOD2, we'll actually pull it up right here. It actually says that we have a max distance of 590, and if you're not within 590, the soldier isn't actually going to execute the attack at all. He's just going to stand there, and that is what I call BT soft locking. If you end up where you didn't put a check on here and he's trying to execute this task, in most cases your AI will just get stuck in this task and not be able to get out, and that is pretty game breaking and not what we want, right? So we don't ever want that to happen where we end up in this task and we're more than 590 Kingdom Hearts 3 units away from our target. So this is where decorators come in. So we're going to right click this task node, we're going to add a decorator, and you're going to see a million decorators, and you can thank Joseph for that because he did a lot of them. So you're going to search for range check. We're going to do range check, and range check does what it sounds like it does. It checks for the range. Alright, so we're going to click on our new decorator. Decorators are always color-coded in blue, and which is honestly a really nice color code. We got the purple, the green, the gray, and the blue. So we got our blue decorator. Click on that, and you're going to see a million options here that we're going to have to populate, and which is a bit overwhelming, but let's go through them. So in the source, that's the first, checkpoint, and we're gonna want a stealth factor, right? We're gonna want to check from him. We're gonna check this, use distance from source bounds. And the target is the target actor, so we're gonna check the distance between the source and the target actor. You're gonna click on use distance to target bounds. For range mode, you can click it down. You're going to see a few different things, but we want to leave it for direct distance. For the range value setting, we're going to click maximum. For these, we're going to leave as literal value. You're going to skip over the Boolean min range, but you want to click use max range, and you want to click use literal max range. For these, you can just set to active action or whatever you want. Because we're not using blackboards, because we didn't click these use blackboards, we're not going to use them. Same with the override key. We didn't click on use override key, so you can just basically put whatever you want, and we're not going to be using it. But the most important part is we're going to highlight this, and we're going to max range, and we're going to put 500. And so what all this is doing is it's going to say, as long as you're within a maximum range of 500, as long as the self actor, which is the actor of the soldiers, within 500 units of its target, it will be able to execute this node. As you can kind of imply, or as has been implied, decorators are pretty much sort of a check or a gate. They are more powerful than that, and I'll show how they are in a second, but they act as a gate for letting us go into this node. So if we are 500 units away, then we will throw ourselves up for a whirlwind kick. Now you're probably wondering, that's great and all, but what do we do if that fails? Because if you are more than 500 units away, then this node fails, and this whole branch is what we call a failure. So we need to give our behavior tree another option for it to flow down to. So again, remember how I said we execute from top to bottom, left to right? We're going to need to drag from our composite node. We're going to need to make a second task node, something else for it to do in case this range check fails. And we're going to need to make it to the right, because it's always, if we put on the left, whatever is left is always going to get checked first. So we're going to make our new node on the right, and we're going to type in move to, and nope, that's the first one. Well, you're going to type in move 2, and you're not going to click on the second one. You're going to click on the first one, and it should say blackboard base move 2 and have the normal little symbol. If you got what I got earlier, don't use that. That won't work. This is the move 2 that was made for Kingdom Hearts 3 by Square, and you're going to need to use that. If you use the base UE one, which is called move 2, then I'm pretty sure that it won't work. So you can see a bunch of things pull up here in our move 2 node. Again, make sure you click on it. Move 2 node, and put acceptable radius 100. And so it's going to consider complete as long as it is within 100 Square Enix units. We're going to want path filing. We're going to use avoidance. We're going to want stop on overlap. The rest of these you can leave blank except for this locomotion definition key. You're going to use active locomotion. Then the final most important thing is you're going to want to go down this blackboard key. You probably have it set as self actor, but you want to put it as target actor. And that's going to tell the move 2 where you want the soldier to move to. So now we have this little simple behavior tree, right? And again, it flows left to right. So we're going to start at the root, flow down to the selector, and it's going to start executing these services every 0.5 seconds, which is going to give us a target. It's going to flow down to here. It's going to check the range. If we're within 500 Square Enix units, we're going to execute our whirlwind kick. If we are not within that range, then we're going to go over here and we're going to start moving towards the target. Now you got your behavior tree, and it will run, and it will work, and it'll all work. However, there's one extra important level of spice that we got to add that is probably one of, at least what I would consider, one of the most powerful parts of behavior trees. Right now we have this problem, which we probably don't really want, where this move 2 node is going to have it move to a radius of 100 units within our target, and then it's going to be considered finished complete. And we don't actually want that. We want it to start our whirlwind kick once we get 500 units away. And this is where observers come in. So we're going to click on our range check decorator, and on the right at the very top you're going to see flow control observer aborts. You're going to click that down and see a couple options. You're going to click lower priority. What this means, and you'll see this, highlight this in blue. What this means is that this decorator is now constantly checking to see if its conditions are met, even if we are executing other nodes. We could have a bunch of other different nodes over here, but this decorator is still actively checking. And if it figures out that we have actually met these conditions, which is being within 500 Square Enix units of our target, then it will abort these other nodes and bring the behavior tree back over into this whirlwind kick. And that is what we want. We want to abort our move 2 so that he's not constantly walking and moving to the target. We want to abort, and we want to move back over here, flow over here, and do his whirlwind kick. And this concludes the first part, where we have our simple behavior tree. You can close out this, and you can cook it, and use Unreal Pack or package it if you'd rather do that, and put it in the game. And in your game, you'll be able to launch it, and your soldier will do exactly as we described. And every soldier will actually do this. He will move to you, and then once he's within range, he'll use his whirlwind kick, which is pretty neat. An important part of packaging all this stuff that you want to remember in case you're a little confused or you forgot is that we only want to package our behavior tree. We do not want to package our whirlwind attack. That was a dummy reference. That'll break the game basically, or at least break our soldier. Same with the EQS. We do not want to package that. That will break our soldier, and including the blackboard. The blackboard is also in the game, so we do not want to package that. That will break the soldier and other enemies, actually. So don't package any of that. Only package our behavior tree. So you can go ahead and do that. And thanks for watching part 1. And I'm just gonna immediately segue to part 2. Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of my BT and AI tutorial. This part I'm just going to go over a lot of the different nodes and show you a little bit of examples of what I've done. And by the end of this, you will pretty much know everything I know. Step 1 is the file structure. I just want to talk a little bit about the file structure and all the folders. You'll see that a lot of enemies and NPCs will use and reference BTs and EQS and even blackboards that are not named with their specific name. Like, for example, Soldier. When we had the Soldier, he did not get his own blackboard. He used a common blackboard that a lot of other enemies use. The cool thing about this is that separate actors, even of a different class, can run BTs and EQS, even if another blackboard or even another actor is running or using that same one. So each instance of like the behavior tree and blackboard, for example, will be unique to that actor. I can show you a little bit of that, like under here in our enemies folder, we got a common stop AI. I got a lot more of them populated in my NPC folder, but we got like a common battle, and we got side move, and update cure target. A lot of different stuff that are shared between various NPCs and enemies. That's enough about that. Next, I want to show you composite nodes and go through a few of them. I'll give you little bit examples. Here we have Donald's behavior tree for his battle, and we right click and we have the different composites, right? And here we got selector. As I said before, selector selects whichever one is able to execute first, and then it will go back and repeat it as long as it can execute it, basically. So we got this selector. Say this is fire. Well, right now he's gonna execute fire for as long as he lives. That's what happens with selector. Selector keeps going down this first branch and executing that same one. However, if we were to add, let's say, like a range check, and that range check said to only fire it within 500 distance, and he's not within 500 distance or 500 units max, then he's gonna hop over from fire. He's gonna go to blizzard, and he's gonna start executing blizzard for as long as he lives, and he'll keep doing that until fire comes back within range. If he's within range of the enemy, then once he goes back up here again to start the behavior tree over, he'll go over and he'll go back to fire, and then once he fails that, he'll go to blizzard, and vice versa. We can add another option here, Thunder, to showcase our other composite nodes. So here we have a sequence. Sequences choose options from left to right. If the first one passes, then the next one will get chosen. But if the next one fails, then the whole sequence is considered a failure, and the BT will move on to something else. So here we have a sequence. Let's say we're within range of this fire attack. So he uses fire, and then he uses blizzard, and then he uses thunder. He's not going to keep using blizzard or keep using fire or something like that. He's going to go in order. So fire, then blizzard, then thunder. However, let's say we got this range check on blizzard or even thunder. He's going to go in order. So fire, then blizzard. And once he gets to thunder, though, he's going to fail. He's going to go back up here, and then it's going to try this again. It's going to go fire, then blizzard, fail, then fire, then blizzard, fail. And if we put this range check here, then he's not within range. It's gonna go fire, it's gonna fail blizzard, and it's gonna stop, it's gonna go fire again, fire again, fire again, fire again. Because each time we get to blizzard, that's considered a fail, and it's never gonna move on to thunder. Now, let's say we had some extra stuff over here. You can only put one composite node, by the way. That's a little tip. But you can only put one composite node connected to your root. You can't connect anything else. You can only connect one. Anyways, let's say this sequence fails. We do fire, blizzard, but this range check fails, so we never executes blizzard. Well, this whole part is considered a failure, and the selector is going to move on to find its next success. So it's going to move on from this side, it's going to go to this side and do whatever is down here, right? So that is how sequences work. And there's one more, base UE composite node, and that's simple parallel. You can have two tasks that run at the same time. However, that's honestly pretty limited, and for the most part you won't really use it. For the most part, Square Enix didn't really use it either. But you can run something like Thunder, and you could probably also run like Run EQS or something like that. But you can't run like Thunder and Blizzard at the same time. That won't work. You can't run Thunder and Move 2 at the same time. That won't work. It's pretty limited in what it can do. You can run other things that change like Blackboard values using EQS or some other system, but that's pretty much it. So you probably won't be using simple parallel, but I just wanted to show that to you. And then Trace, Square Enix made some custom composites, and we got this custom one. And as you see, this one I'm showing you in the top right brings up a few things. You can change the node name. You can also change the node name on these UE ones, but you change the node name, and then you have return condition: first success, first failure, and last node completes. For first success, that's just like a selector. I don't know if there's a difference between using this and a selector, but that's the same thing. Same thing with the first failure. First failure is the exact same thing as a sequence. So both of those you can just use selector and sequences, because as far as I know, it doesn't do anything different. But the most powerful thing, that an option that you have available that they made for their custom composite, is last node completes. And this one is pretty important. Last node completes runs like a sequence. So let's say we got this set up and we want to run a sequence here, except with last node completes. So let's say we fire, right? But we're not within range of blizzard. Well, after this, it's still gonna move on and use thunder. It's not gonna fail like a normal sequence. It'll still move on. So if he's out of range, he's gonna use fire, thunder, fire, thunder, fire, thunder, rather than just using fire or something like that. Honestly, pretty important. I'm surprised it's not something that base UE has, but they made it, and it's pretty important. Pretty much the only other important composite you're ever going to use is random. Random does what it sounds like it does, which is chooses a random action, and you can just play pretend here. You'll see if you click on the composite node that up in the top right, you'll have some options. Custom period, you don't need to worry about those, but the weights are what make them random. And 0, 1, 2 is always left to right. So 0 is fire, 1 is blizzard, 2 is thunder. For these weighted weights, they are actually ratios. So you would do like 2, 1, and 1, stuff like that. You generally use numbers greater than 1. That's not a percentage. Next, I'm going to show you some basics of flow control and a little bit of examples of just how my files work. So this is Kyrie's very initial first BT that she runs. This is a sequence, so we do left to right, and then we got a loop here, loops. But basically we have some checks on here. Is it in stop AI? Yes or no? If it is in stop, then we're gonna wait. And is this action off? That's what this bool is checking. Is it yes, no? No, then we run. Then we go down here and we start executing this stuff. And obviously, since Kyrie doesn't just stand around all the time or even for most of the time, this stuff, even though it's checking every single frame basically, this stuff doesn't ever actually get executed. And the sequence executes extremely fast, even though it's executing every frame. Anyways, we have our selector here, and it goes down to here. Is cure available, or is she supposed to cure? No. And then we go to the sequence, or sorry, the selector, and this selects, is she battling? Yes, then we throw in her battle BT. Is she not battling? Then no, we throw in her follow BT. But this cure here, this has, again, our abort lower priority. So if the game tells her that she needs to cure someone, then we put this lower priority here, and it's gonna abort all this stuff using lower priority. As for this is abort self. If her support target is not available, or is set by someone else, or is already cured, and that ends up clearing the support target actor, then it aborts her cure flow. Because if you don't have this set up, then she can sort of waste time and wait around being stuck in this behavior tree. That's a lot of information thrown at you very quickly, but so I want to talk about some specific tasks and show you a few of them. I've got Goofy's battle flow thrown up here, and this one is run behavior, and this runs his swim battle flow if he is swimming. That's pretty straightforward, just runs a nested behavior tree. Except for services and observers, behavior trees don't run at the same time. So if you end up running your behavior tree and he ends up going into this behavior tree, he's not going to run it at the same time as he's going to run everything else or run another behavior tree. It's only going to start executing within this behavior tree. However, if you have services that are above the behavior tree, like for example, like I don't know, finding a target, running a QS, whatever to find a target, then you don't need to put it in here because it's already going to keep executing that service above it in its parent behavior tree. Another EQS task, or another task that we have, is running QS query. And I press on it, it's the same as our run EQS in as a service, but we have these depreciated nodes that UE leaves in, and I don't know why they got that left in, but they got left in, and you just don't ever put anything in there. If you put anything in there, we're able to, you probably can't, but if you were somehow to force something in there, nothing's gonna happen. And I would just leave it checked on the blackboard. But yeah, don't ever put anything in there, and don't worry about that. We have wait. Wait right here. Wait. What wait does is it makes the AI wait and stop there, and the behavior tree literally stops there for however many amount of seconds that you have. So if you have 2 seconds, the behavior tree will stop there and wait for 2 seconds, or 50 seconds, or whatever you have. No op, that is a custom trace game node made by Square Enix, and no op doesn't do anything except just exit out the behavior tree and goes to something else. That's all it's there for. It's just to move the behavior tree along. Another important part, or another task, which is basically the last task I really want to go over, is the custom blueprint tasks, and I'll also show you blueprint decorators and blueprint services. But you can, I'm showing you MP gift here because that is a custom blueprint task. And what you do is you go up to the top toolbar and press new task. You're going to press on BT task blueprint base, which for all of you, unless you've been doing other stuff, it's probably going to be the only option there. And you're going to click on that, and it's going to bring up what is essentially a blueprint. And I can show you my blueprint. Yeah, and it just looks like a blueprint, just like everything else. And you know, there are a bunch of specific nodes that you can use with blueprint tasks and services and decorators, but I'm not getting into that now. You can look that stuff up online. There's nothing fancy that Trace did with it. That's all documented in the UE4 documentation. EQS. We got some common EQS that I want to go over. Enemy target default, which we already did in the tutorial. It's pretty common, so not much to talk about. Even NPCs can use it. It automatically finds a target on the opposite team. And for enemies, it can target both players and NPCs. Important part of EQS, and this is more just going over EQS stuff, is finding out the formatting, because the formatting is really important. I can show you how to do that. So if we want to find out the formatting, like how did I know the formatting for enemy target default? Well, using SOD2 or SOD2, you can go to EX9 and go to the behavior tree. And if we go down to their service, we can see which service they're running, which is EQ enemy target default. And if you see this, you go into query param and AI dynamic param, you'll see they got range set up here and 50,000 is their value. So that's how I knew that. That's how I figured it out. Just like behavior trees, a lot of NPCs and enemies use common EQS and don't really have their own special EQS. An important one for NPCs is lock on target versus target in range. Lock on target just finds a target based on a few things, but for the most part they just find a target. And then target in range, though, that always targets the closest enemy to the NPC. So that's the difference between the two. Moving on, services. I've mostly explained everything there is to explain about services, except that you can do custom services. So again, I got another custom service for MP gift, and it's how Goofy is able to find an actor to use MP gift on. And so I have it continue updating that blackboard so they can use it. Nice thing that you can do is that from your behavior trees, you can just double click on any blueprint node and it'll automatically take you to that blueprint, which is neat and handy. Next and last, I will be showing you decorators that I've used and explain them a little bit more in detail. Important part of decorators overall that I want to talk about is inversed. Every decorator, or almost every decorator, has it at least. It's this condition over here that's going to be below all this other stuff. And inverse just does what it sounds like it does. It checks for the opposite of wherever you put. Let's move on to range check. This one's a pretty important decorator. You're going to be using it a lot. So as you can see, I actually have 2 range checks set up on here, and I'll show you why. So we already know what the source and the target it does and what it does. But range mode, we didn't go over that. Direct distance, that is direct distance from the ground, how far away the enemy is. 2D, I'm not 100% sure what that does, and I barely ever see it used. But direct distance Z, that's a very important one. That basically checks for height, and I mean, as you can infer the z coordinates distance-wise from the source to the target. So for a lot of moves, you're gonna want to check. You want to do 2 checks, one for the regular distance and then one for the z distance. You can also use path distance if a certain character needs to use that, but most characters don't use that, so you'll be using direct distance. And again, you'll know if they use path distance just by looking at their BT with SOD2. Arithmetic comparison. This one is compares things arithmetically, or also checks pools, but it's whatever they want to use it for, honestly. But up here you put the type, and you put in if you want to use that property or not, and then of course you put the Blackboard key, and for this one is if Goofy is swimming or not. So if he is not swimming, which is equal to 0, he is not swimming, then execute all this. But over here, if he is swimming, then we use his battle flow. As you can see, is equal to 1 and equal to 0. And for these name properties, you just gotta look through the files and find a bunch of different name properties that you can use. There's is swimming, there's is player attacking now, there's magic point, there's a lot of different things that you can use. Next is state check. This one is pretty important and pretty much that you can use on every behavior tree. This checks for the state of whoever you want. You can put self actor in here, which is probably most what you can use, but you can also put in your target actor or whatever other Blackboard key you need to use. And then you can add these states. And all these states, as long as one of them, obviously you can only have one state at a time, so as long as one of them is valid, then it executes. So you can click the drop down menu and you'll see a bunch of different options here specified. So that's a handy decorator. Another handy decorator is enemy, and again you pull it up and you have the source, which most of the time is going to be target actor. And you can press the addition sign to add more enemies, and push the drop down menu to check different enemies. Validate action is a really important one. We'll go on to validate action. So this validates the attacks files that will actually execute. If you remember from our tutorial for the soldier behavior tree, his attack file actually said that he can only use his move if he's 590 square units away. And so this decorator node will automatically validate the action that you put in here in the action definition override and validate that you can actually use it, which is very important, because if, let's say we take this off and we don't put the validate action in there, and he ends up using turbo, but his attack file won't actually let him use turbo for a reason, then he will do, again, what I've called before, BT softlock, and you don't want that. So a very important way to prevent that is to pretty much always use validate action on any of the action nodes. Blackboard based condition. This is an important one. Let me show you. I mean, I kind of already talked about it, but Blackboard based condition is checking the Blackboard key and its values. So for support target actor is actor object reference, so it's gonna be is set. So is this Blackboard object set, or is it not set? And that's how you execute based on that. But another important part is this flow control. So you can do it on result change, which is only if the condition changes, which is it set or is it not set? Fair. But on value change, if you change it to value change, then that's different. because we can have a support target actor set, but that support target actor could change, but it could still be set. But this observer will change it how it actually aborts. Pretty key and important nifty feature. A lot of bosses use this sort of thing, and some NPCs do as well. Cooldown. Cooldown is important. I mean, it does what it sounds like it does, and it puts a cooldown on a node. So if you have a cooldown for 10 seconds, once it executes the node, that node will be considered locked, and the behavior tree will basically pretend like it's not even there and continue moving on with its tree for 10 seconds. And then once the 10 seconds is up, it will unlock. Another node that you will probably see a lot on in the BT files is tag cooldown. However, you have to know that UE4 has a bug where tag cooldown is actually broken. If you put tag cooldown on this node, for example, and you want this node to execute first, it will actually, the behavior tree will actually skip over it for like the first 5 seconds or whatever and won't execute it. It's absolutely annoying, and I don't know how they managed to make it work. They I don't know why it happens, why it does that, but I've seen it. I've also seen forum posts online, not just obviously no one's posting online about Kingdom Hearts behavior trees, but like regular UE4 stuff from around this time. They're like, what's going on with tag cooldown? And I don't know, I assume they fixed it by now. But enough on tag cooldown. Time limit. Time limit is a decorator that, again, does what it pretty much sounds like it does, and it puts a time limit on this action. For the most part, you're going to use time limit on move twos, and let's say you only want the move 2 to last for 2 seconds. Then the time limit's going to let it last for 2 seconds, and it's going to abort this task after 2 seconds. Entry limit. Let me scroll up. This one's much more useful for bosses, especially. Entry limit limits the amount of time the behavior tree can enter that branch or node pretty much since the actor was spawned. So in this case with Davy Jones, he can only enter this branch once, and he will only execute these things once, and then after that he will never enter this branch again. If you set the entry limit to 2 or 5 or 10 or 30, then he can enter 30 times or whatever. Of course, you got a couple other options here. I'll let you explore those, but that's the basics of entry limit. Is stop AI? I kind of alluded to it earlier, but this checks if the game is calling for is stop AI, and for the most part, you're gonna want to use it just, in case you need it for, example, Coliseum. That's a pretty important one where you want to use is stop AI. If you just need the game to stop your AI, and you probably will, then you have is stop AI, and it will run whatever you put in there. You can put either wait is a good one to run too. The NPCs usually do that. I don't know why the enemies have their own behavior tree for common stop AI. I assume that, I haven't actually looked at it, but I assume it's just also just like wait. Yeah. Interrupt is an important one for bosses, especially. It's for revenge stuff, and you can look into that in behavior trees. And then the final decorator I want to go to is HP check, and again, that one does what it sounds like it says it does, and it checks for HP. And over here you can put which actor. You can put self actor, you can put player actor, you can put target actor. You can use whatever you want, and then you can fill around the numbers and percentage and how it checks. But basically, it will let you execute what underneath it based on the amount of HP. So that is pretty much it, and I've gone over a lot of what I know in the basics. Obviously, we didn't go through and construct some like boss mega AI together, but you can always message me or ping me on the Discord, and I will get back to you and let you know if I know the answer to what you're asking. I hope this tutorial helped and that you learned some things along the way. Thanks for watching. I hope to see some other AI mods come out soon.